here she is.
Oh.
But yeah, you've only seen pictures of her up till now.
Right? Oh yeah, that's going to pan up great. Thinking about maybe what sort of patterns we can do that not only accentuate, design-wise, but also can help
hide those crimes.
Maybe hide those crimes a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, that would be good.
Right. And this is how you can start to do stripes that don't feel like stripes.
Mm-hmm.
Start to,
do that.
Yes.
Rubbing it off the top.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I think we've got proof of concept here for sure.
I love, and we can get that going darker and darker on the top.
Yeah, and we can pull this into this and then back and forth and back and forth. And I think that's really when you push and pull, you get really nice results.
I know that I paint stuff all the time, but I have learned a tremendous amount in the last half hour, man. This was a real education. So I was thinking before we put the base coat on, we'll just plot out some of the stripe or color action. So we had some kind of rough guide.
No, I think that's good. It's always good to do it small before you do it tall.
Yeah, because also I think you probably have, I know that in animation and in animatronics, sculptors I work with have a knowledge of where muscle moves around muscle for a bend. And I'm sure you have understandings of where certain kinds of camo land on topography.
It's true. And if you think about where there's anatomically and artistically, those are our two things, right? So we've got to try and make it look as believable as possible and as cool as possible. So I think if we plan out some of our patterns to help kind of accent the shapes that you've so wonderfully put in here, then I think that'll be a good part of the design.
All right. Now we've also talked about I think we're agreed that a dark green top back spine, or that a darker value top back spine is where we're starting.
So I think if we do that sort of classic counter shading, so a little bit lighter on the belly with some neat kind of dusty washes and maybe a darker top back, and then we can bring in some neat patterning. I think that'll visually be really stunning.
Well, and that's the one where I don't have any ideas at all. I have no idea where. It strikes me that there might want to be some verticals on the tail, but again, this is not I don't know. So I'm curious about where your eye starts to see stripes or.
Yeah,
lines.
and we can look at some modern references too, because there's any pattern or color imaginable has been exhibited
on a lizard
in lizard or birds. So you can really the palette is any color you want, but is it believable?
Right.
And is it interesting artistically to look at?
That tells me that you've seen stuff in the wild that you'd think, if I actually did that, you wouldn't believe that it existed.
Pink dolphins. So in the Amazon, there are dolphins that are absolutely Pepto-Bismol pink.
Right.
If we painted this dinosaur Pepto-Bismol pink, no one would believe it.
Right. So like the Hello Kitty Raptor.
Right. So I think we want to stay in believable color, things that might work inside of the environment that it lived in.
Okay. All right.
A nice thing to do is also at every joint, like on elbows and knees and things like that.
Yeah.
If you go in and make it just a little bit, make that a little bit more solid.
Oh, interesting.
So at knuckles, it's very similar to what we've got going here. So you just a little bit deeper tone on knuckles.
It's a richer, more.
It's just a little bit richer, and so it adds another visual stop for your eye.
I noticed here as I was drawing lines down the neck that I naturally wanted to kind of make a triangle transition there.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. You want to be able to drop down, catch the shoulder inside of that design. So,
right. Because it would follow, you'd end up with stuff on there.
Yeah, I think we might, yeah, exactly. And this is one of those situations where symmetry is not your friend. You want to make sure you're breaking solid symmetrical lines actually look kind of fake. So you want to make sure you're crowding and stretching things a little bit here and there. So a lot of scientists talk about what for potential display behaviors, what is that? Not only just for balance, but maybe it was part of a display.
A mating ritual.
Yeah. So maybe you could have a higher contrast. So if you have dark or if you have a light against dark, there's some patterns which are really nice that have a black right against white value.
Oh, wow.
Which is really nice.
Like a ringtail.
Yeah. That same really contrasty scheme can be really nice.
my God. I remember, so San Francisco Zoo has a bunch of peacocks wandering around. Just, they're not fenced in.
Sure, yeah.
And I was there with my boys when they were like 3. And, we're walking down a path and like there's a fence right here. And behind the fence is a peacock.
Yeah.
And I was like, boys, come on. Let's keep quiet. And we get over and we're like standing at the fence and the peacock is like right where Josh is, like right there. And the boys, they're 3, so they can barely contain their excitement.
Yeah.
And one goes, ah! And the peacock turns around and does the full display with the so loud. I had no idea. It was evolutionary how it was genuinely scary.
Yeah.
Right? And the boys are like screaming, terrified. I'm carrying them both away. They're weeping. I'm laughing.
You ever went to the zoo again?
This is a bad trip to the zoo. Oh, this is starting to feel really exciting.
Well, this is a good plan. I always try and do a color scheme or a small scale version of it because it's very difficult to change stuff at full scale. If you have a 60-foot long thing to paint, you can't make changes that easily on the go. So you want to really make all those hard decisions, design decisions in the small scale.
And give yourself, I find myself, I know where I can get overwhelmed, where like, I won't be able to see this. I can't zoom out enough to look at the large
Right,
thing.
you can't, in many cases, I have a really large shop, but there's times I can't get far enough back away to see the whole picture.
My dad used to have a little mirror in his studio, and he would look at the thing from as far away as he could get. Then he'd put a mirror on the wall, and he'd look at it in the mirror, and then he'd walk backwards from the mirror.
Yeah,
and it's all just to see the formal.
Yes.
How is it laying out?
Very important.
And also, is there like on lizards? So like, are their anuses like super dark? Are there parts of them that are strangely anomalous in terms of color?
It's weird that you say that. Because there was just a perfectly preserved cloaca.
And what did we learn from the perfectly preserved cloaca?
That dinosaur cloacas tend to be a lot like crocodile cloacas.
Okay.
But they don't tend to have a lot of color to them.
They tend to be devoid of pigment.
Yeah.
What
this is cutting edge
What does a
science.
crocodile cloaca look like?
How much? Right.
Go. We'll cut it out later.
So I've been lucky enough to be, to help capture and measure crocodilians.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that process is you sex them. So doing that, you have to sort of reach inside of the animal in the cloaca.
Oh, you have to reach inside to sex it.
To see what sex it is.
Wow.
So I'm familiar with crocodilian cloacas. But yeah, they don't have really a lot of color. They tend to be the same color as the belly for the most part.
Right.
It's mostly a shape difference. So I see we're
there's not a lot going on.
We're
here.
absent of the cloaca. So there's a thing called this is get into the weeds too much, but so there's this thing called the ischial callosity, which is this bone that sticks out here, and then right behind that is usually where the cloaca opening is. But we can do that in paint as easily as anything else.
So I was watching a video the other day of a python pooping, like you do.
As one does.
I had always thought that snakes ejected out of their mouths, but I guess some of them don't, or is there some waste that comes out of one end and some that comes out of the other?
Depends on what they're like. Egg-eating snakes will kick out the broken shells out of their mouth. Right. Yeah, but for the most part, it comes out of the...
So what I saw in terms of this large Burmese python ejecting a lot of stuff and urine, is that what it would look like when a dinosaur pooped? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, and then of course you have birds of prey. So there's things like owls that will regurgitate the stuff that they can't process. So like the hair and little bones. They may have kicked out pellets like that. It's hard to really know. I don't know if we have anything really preserved that shows that. But they do have coprolites. They have dinosaur poop preserved that have bone in them. And they can cross-section that on herbivorous dinosaurs. They can see what species of plant they were. And then they can also see at some level what kind of animals they may have been eating by cross-sectioning poop.
That is awesome. All right.
Sorry, we covered it all there.
We covered the fundamentals
we got the
dinosaurs.
we got it all figured out.
And are stripe patterns like something that also sometimes repeats on toes and feet?
Yes, they can. I'd like to bring those down, like if we're gonna do light, but if we can do that dark, this thing, get the light color first,
right,
and then do that dark on top of the feet. It looks so, with those big scales.
Yeah, especially with the way that the scales are.
Then that looks super good.
Ladder.
So if we can get, I would say if we, whatever high tone we use, high value we use to give it a base coat, then on the tops, maybe on those things called scutelle, we can darken those up, and that looks really, really handsome.
Yeah, I think that what we're doing here is sort of filling out ways in which it could work in our minds, but knowing that once paint gets on it, the front path will become a lot more clear.
Yeah.
One of the axioms here is, I don't have to know how to finish it. I only have to know what the next step is.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's like, it gives me so much relief so much of the time. Oh, I can see you can end up with some really cool stuff.
I know, right? Oh, that looks really
your stripes
good.
Against each other with different colors and stuff.
Yeah, that looks really good.
It's amazing how much a whole character starts to show up. Like you feel like this is a character, and then this is like something.
Yeah, no, it really changes the whole landscape.
So I'm really curious about where you start to imagine on these. This kind
of. I'm gonna use. Where's our light? Well, we would use this lighter tone as an underbase, but as far as like doing things where you're going every other and crowding.
Oh wow!
So that can look a little eyelashy if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But the other thing to do that works.
So the
really
topography helps you tremendously in terms of adding, subtracting, proper detail.
Good sculpting helps it paint itself.
I often find my best paint jobs are achieved by scrubbing off the paint job I just messed up.
Right. Yeah, you take that off and you're like, oh, that's nice and subtle. That's beautiful. That turned out great. Just like I planned.
Exactly. Do you sometimes come in late on a paint job with an airbrush to do some general shading and stuff like that that's really subtle?
I think that's in fact, I think that's going to be a really good idea with this is if there were areas that we wanted to say like, oh gosh, it would be really nice if this part had a little bit of a, skin fold in it like that.
Right.
We could literally airbrush that in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, because if you're really just thinking of, it's just like sculpting. Right, it's just shadow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So if we needed a spot that was like, oh, that's not working, maybe we could come in and we could airbrush that. And that simple act of a subtle shadow can give a lot of dimension.
Wow. Oh, that's great. It's like one of my weathering axioms is also always add a second or third color. It's going to look great with that one color you tried, but you add the second color, it's going to look twice as good. And you can't see it until you do it.
Right. No, that's very, very good advice.
I keep thinking this transition is going to look ugly, and I know that when color goes on, it's just going to disappear.
I think it will. It will. We need it.
This is so educational.
Right. I think if we can make sure, I think we need to keep bold pattern. The bold pattern is really going to help. And if we do it across lines and certainly do it strategically, we're going to.
And I may do just a tiny bit of crazy gluing around here to clean up that interface on a micro level, but that's it.
Just to squish it down a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, color tends to be because it's the most subjective thing. And it's the thing we know least about with dinosaurs. That it becomes one of the, and I'm sure this is the case with anything you've ever worked on. As a director, did people come in and they're like, oh, color's not right? Is that
We had so it depends on whether, so sometimes you're working with someone who's absolutely right about it. You got to scrap it, you got to redo it. And they have the 10,000 foot view, and those guys are wonderful. Those folks are wonderful to work for. But sometimes you'll have a director that is like, if you make everything really great, they're going to come in and find a problem that is systemic. Could you make the whole thing more?
I have a story. But go ahead. Sorry.
So with directors like that, or art directors like that, we did a thing called, we painted purple, which means we would take one part of the thing and make it absolutely the wrong color. So they'd walk in and be like, "That's wrong," and you'd be like, "I'm really sorry."
We have this convergent thought in our shop. It's totally the same thing. You got to do like some super obvious thing that is a red herring, so that because otherwise, if
they want something to do,
right, and it's not malicious in any way, but it's just because if they've
look, I understand it from their point of view. They walk into this room where someone's been working on something that they've started, right, and they've got to contribute.
Right.
I totally feel like you don't want to walk in a room and go, "I think everything's great," and walk away. That feels like you haven't done your job.
Right.
So we do have to sometimes give some of these art directors a sense of doing their job. That's so funny. Wait, you have a story though.
Yeah. So this is probably not on camera. I think if we with the tone underneath it, that's just mostly values and kind of pattern.
I feel you want to drive.
I want to drive rush that really badly. So yeah, I think with that, and then what you've done here, we have a plan, and then as you said, I bet it'll change a little bit as we get some paint on there and start messing with, and then we can come back and just work some details.
It strikes me that this gets more and more fun.
Oh,
from this moment forward.
As soon as you get the first color on, it gets really exciting. Yeah.
All right, let's get the first color on.
Let's do it.
All right. Watching her face move around while I'm painting her is awesome. She's all like...
This angle is really, it's like it's responding to you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Petting it, almost kind of a neat thing.
Seems like he's responding.
Little chin scratch.
It's just amazing how it coheres.
Yeah.
It's that thing of like, I started out, I guess the first thing I called art was found object art.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'd make these assemblages. And the thing with found object art is you need the pieces to transcend themselves, right? And it doesn't work unless they do.
Yeah.
And that's such a hard won aesthetic that when you paint and everything goes to it feels like you're cheating.
Well, you've done this. Well, that's the prep. It's the prep that makes that all work so beautifully, right? It's like all that hard work finally coming together. All the work you've done coalesces with color.
There's a funny story about, it's like when you dump this much paint on something and you realize how much weight you're putting into it.
Right.
There's a thing about airplanes, they have to be painted very carefully because of that.
Oh, because it adds so much collective weight?
Yeah.
Oh.
And consequently, it costs a fortune to have even a small plane painted.
Oh.
So there's a famous story from Marin about a guy who was like, I don't want to pay all that money. So he calls up an auto body shop and he's like, can you paint my plane? And they're like, absolutely. And they're like, they give him a price that's really high for a car and dirt cheap for the plane. So he's like, absolutely, let's do it. And they paint his plane, and he comes in to look at it, and he's like, it looks better, to be honest, than any plane he's ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, did he crack open some new formula here? It was like, what is so beautiful? It's so, where, he says, are all the rivets? And they said, we ground those down and bonded over them. So they made a plane-shaped object that would never fly again.
You don't need those rivets, do you?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. How to ruin a plane in one easy step. Yeah, I went a little thin back there. We needs a little, I think a second coat to get some saturation. Little thin. Okay, we'll keep out this one.
You know, I may have to break out my painter's stilts
Oh yeah,
for getting to the top of this.
getting to the back.
All right. These finally match, I think, in a reasonable.
That's really nice.
That other ochre, I agree with you. I think that could be really fun.
If we, we just like come in and
just start
just,
doing all the dark areas.
maybe
in it.
that's sponge time. I mean, that might be.
Yeah. First coat is on, and she looks great. More than that, it's like I always say that I build stuff. I think sometimes just so I can paint it at the end. This is absolutely that, because an hour ago this was a gray object, and now it is rapidly on its way to being a character, and I can feel it, and it feels good. I asked him if he'd ever had his hand inside the anus of a lizard, and he said, well, I've got a couple stories.
Yeah. Some nice subtlety going on.
I agree. I'm going to pull out my camera and take a look. I'm going to wash the sponge first.
I think we can bring some dark.
Yeah.
Dark on top, maybe.
Uh-huh. What about
Are
doing
we thinking about the same thing?
a lighter value
a
from
lighter-
underside coming up?
Why don't I start on the belly color?
Do it.
And then if you want to, do you want to start on top doing some of that dark stuff going?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we should be.
Do you want to go with an even darker brown?
Or do we just go
Go with the gray?
go with that?
Or I'm just going to ask also, what about the green? Or I guess the green and the brown will make it kind of gray.
Yeah. Why don't you try? We could try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
Or with that thing. How about that? The waxy thing that.
Yeah.
Try that.
You need it. And like you have to be ready to.
That looks really good.
you like that? I like
think that
that. It
looks
feels
great.
really good.
Fast, and you're just hitting the tips. It looks-
No, I know. It's like the
really-
fastest dry brushing ever.
It's cool. I like how it's easy. What's that called?
This is schmutz stick raw
Schmutz.
under.
Wow.
And this is literally made for like weathering clothing, right? Like this is for
When you
this
need
is
it.
art directors take values down of anything. Yeah.
Schmutz stick. Just another thing. That's half to buy.
Yep. One more.
Just add it to the list of things to buy.
With schmutz,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
it just
pops the.
yeah, it just gives it a little bit of that.
Cool.
All right.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's gelling, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really gelling. Shoot, the shadow work is great. And Shoot, you're gonna give the same kind of love over here to these guys as on the other side.
You tell me how much love you want.
Oh yeah. I feel like since there's a bunch of that darker value on the other side, we should match it here to a certain extent. this, but the whole color planes are starting to really coalesce into something.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'm going to put her eyes in. I started up the hot glue gun. We're going to do that.
Yeah, it looks great.
Doesn't it?
Ah.
Good enough. Here comes the other one. Oh. Beautiful. All right. There we go. One there. One there. There we go. What a looker. Okay. Oh. Oh. A person arrived.
Right? Boy, did that change the world.
It really did.
It's fading in there.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being this low on the food chain?
Just puts it all in perspective.
It really does. Oh, right. And so now I've got this nice dark shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, see that?
Yeah, just
You're
like
gonna get that.
immediate,
Get that dark,
yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Dude, she looks old and like she's seen some shit.
I'm gonna turn. Yeah. Too good.
Now I want a voice modulator in this thing. Right? All right, I'm gonna come and hit the tail because it's missing some gray now. I've neglected it. So you ain't be watching this. You're probably watching this. I would be watching this going, how do you know where to put this stuff? And the answer is you don't. You're like, I think each of us is just looking at this repeatedly and thinking, where is there something I can deal with? And just moving towards that thing. And then you just keep on doing that. And over several days, something comes out of it. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, I believe that's.
Yeah. You follow your nose and you look for the high spots. Then attack those and attack the next set of high spots. I feel like tomorrow morning what you and I are going to do is actually scab on all the rest of the parts.
Let's do that.
Get these in here and color match them.
Yeah.
Because like I want to do some trimming in here. This needs some work. I haven't done
Tighten that up.
anything in there.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I've been noticing the white. I can't even see the white you did, but I can see what it does.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's that you're doing that nice fade from in the pocket.
Yeah, just
That's
try to break
cool.
up those lines just
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah.
And you can always bring them back if you want to trim it.
No, I think that's great.
That's nice too. Like,
That adds a little something
Yeah.
there. That can be warmer, but I can scrub dry brush over that too and that's a nice little light gray over the top too. That helps.
Like this is.
Yeah, and we can go. Keeping the darker, but if maybe even pulling that value here a little bit to.
Also, it's making
echo.
the transition work just really nice.
Yeah, makes that go away.
All right. It's the end of the first day of painting, and I will admit to you, I did not think we would get this far. I also didn't know that she would be this color. I was really solid in my head of that sort of greeny, sickly green of the edge of an alligator's stomach being a sort of North Star for color. And then we started layering in just where the stripe patterns would go. And I've talked about this before, but there's a moment in which the object tells you what it's going to be. And the object made it clear that this is like a desert raptor, not a rainforest raptor or whatever environment we were thinking. Because it's really like right here, this is all working, like firing on all cylinders. And this is giving us really, really clear understanding of how to carry the texture across. And Gary was saying that there is a moment when you stop seeing a fiberglass object in front of you and you see an actual animal. And it's like there's a peak above the clouds and I can almost see that moment coming. And I love painting stuff. I love it when the paint starts to fool me, but I haven't done a creature at any scale before. So can you tell how giddy I am? Thank you guys so much for watching. I wanted to remind you about some classic merch we still have available at adamsavage.com, specifically these beautiful pouches. I use these like sidecars for everything I do. I've got them in different categories and different colors, and if you want to know what's inside them, we also sell patches that label them, like for cables or pencils, or if you just want to represent the Savage logo. We also make these in 2 different sizes, small and large, for whatever needs you have. They're available right now at adamsavage.com.